riding in that chariot? And who else?
Krishna.
Krishna. Who owns that chariot? Whose chariot was that? Krishna's chariot. Right? He is the owner of that chariot. Who owns the body that we have? Does anything belong to us?
No.
The soul is the owner of the chariot. Right? But what do we say? This is my body. So our thinking is already what? Wrong. It's skewed, right? Because if we're claiming this to be ours, we're already thinking like who? Dhrit Rashtra. Right? Because this is the kingdom, right? And Dhritarashtra, Dhrita means to reign, to hold tight, right? To what? To what is not ours, right? So Bhagwan is the soul, he's the owner of this chariot. And who's the charioteer?
Krishna.
Intelligence. Our intelligence is the charioteer. Bhagwan is the charioteer, right? The Jivatma, right? And guess who the horses are? Who are the horses? The senses.
Yes.
How many horses was being drawn? Was drawn in the chariot?
5.
5. Right? What are they? What are the senses? Smell, sight, taste, hearing, and feeling, right? So these are the 5 senses. And these 5 senses are the horses, right? If you smell something, what happens? What goes there? Huh? The what? The mind. Right? The mind is the who? Passenger. Right? You sit down in the chariot, right? And wherever the senses takes it, guess what? That's where it goes, right? The reins of the chariot receive, you know, like the brain, receive impulses. When you smell something, what happened? It sends a signal to the brain, right? When you taste some prasad, what happened? If Vishnu makes the prasad, it tastes really good because he makes it with the farina, the wheat flour, right? And when you taste it, what happened? My son loves it so much. Every time he makes, he asks, make sure if Uncle Vishnu makes prasad, bring some for me. Right? So, when you taste the prasad, what happened? The taste is delicious, so what it does, it sends a signal to the brain. What does the brain do? It reacts pleasantly, nice taste, right? Similarly, when the rein of the horses, when the impulse goes to the rein, what happened? The rein leads, guides the charioteer to that direction, right? So the passenger just sits there and goes wherever the sense and the intelligence leads it to, right? So for example, remember I told you the example of the child being born? There was a reason why I told you that story, because it leads to this part of our katha. If a child born ignorant and bad, right? Where is the intelligence going to lead the reins to turn to? Huh? Bad things, right? So the intelligence, based on his intelligence, right? He's going to have certain impulses, right? And those impulses are going to lead to negative desires, passion, greed, guilt, right? Possessiveness, right? Anger, all these things. Remember we discussed those 6 things that leads us. And it's going to steer that person into what direction? Into the tamas way of life, into destruction, right? But if that child is brought up with bhakti and buddhi, where are they going to lead that chariot to? To the sattva way of life, which is going to lead us to where?
Righteousness.
Righteousness. Righteousness. So as we were born and we were brought up, at some point in our life, if we have the right guidance like we are right now studying the Gita, right? Can we change? Everything can change. What is the only thing that cannot change?
Truth.
The Jivatma. Right? So the Dhritarashtra had the opportunity in Duryodhana. Could they have changed if they wanted to? But who was their guru? Who were they learning from? Sakuni. Sakuni was their mamu. And what was he? He was a gambler. He liked to gamble. Right? Who was the guru to the Pandavas? Krishna. Right? So as long as the buddhi, as long as you lead the rein in that direction, the body and the mind and the soul, thought, everything follows in that direction. And that was the issue right here in the first chapter. We knew the outcome of the war in the first verse of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Right there it summarizes the entire Bhagavad Gita in those few words. What does it tell us? Dharma kshetre kuru kshetre samaveta yayutsava mamakaha pandavaschaiva. How did he refer to the Pandavas? He referred to them, how are my sons, the rightful owners of the throne, getting along compared to those Pandavas, those other families? That's not part of the Kuru race. How are they doing in this battlefield? Like rice. You know when you plant rice? Right? In the field? To make the rice grow good, what does do? You have to go and uproot the what? The weeds and the grass, right? In between. So the rice will flourish and get nutrients, right? Well, guess who he was referring to as the weeds? Guess who the trash was referring to as the weeds?
Pandavas.
The Pandavas. Why was he referring to them as the bad guys? Because that was he was what, first of all? And no, what was he? What was his deformity?
Blind.
He was blind, wasn't he? He was blind because of what? Dhrita means someone who holds on to tight the reins of what? Rashtra what? Material possessions. So he was blinded already by his greed for material possessions. And as such, his knowledge was also imperfect. Right? He didn't have perfect knowledge. Whereas Yudhishthir, Arjun, Bhim, they had what knowledge? Perfect, because they lived a sattvic life. You see? So once that happened, he wanted to take away, uproot the Pandavas. But in the end, who got uprooted? Who? The Kauravas. Why? Because what type of place was that? And who was the guru of the Pandavas?
Krishna.
Krishna. He was there leading the battle, right? He was in front, wasn't he? So this is the essence of chapter 1, verse 1. It's a very simple concept. If you let buddhi, if you let intelligence guide the range, it's going to take us where? To righteous act, to sattvic thing, to pure thoughts. And if we let desire and greed lead the range, it's going to take us to wild, unruly type things, to do the wrong things in life. So this is the lesson in the first verse of the chapter 1. Let us not be blind. Let us not be sitting in the chariot of this body and be like a blind fool running around following our desires and our senses. Let us pull the reins using buddhi, intelligence, and steer the chariot in the right direction. And the only way that's going to happen is by putting who first?
Krishna.
Krishna. By putting God as the charioteer to steer the chariot and using his wisdom as our intelligence to steer the range. That is the first lesson of the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki, Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai. Now we'll have a bhajan and we'll prepare for Havan.